4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
This is not the first time a plane has been shot down in eastern Ukraine. Over the last several weeks, Russian-backed separatists have shot down a Ukrainian transport plane and a Ukrainian helicopter, and they claimed responsibility for shooting down a Ukrainian fighter jet. Moreover, we know that these separatists have received a steady flow of support from Russia. This includes arms and training. It includes heavy weapons, and it includes anti-aircraft weapons. The UN Security Council has endorsed this investigation, and we will hold all its members, including Russia, to their word in order to facilitate that investigation. Russia, pro-Russian separatists, and Ukraine must adhere to an immediate ceasefire.
All right, folks, that's the president earlier today addressing the Malaysian airliner situation, calling for an immediate ceasefire, also blaming Russian separatists and saying that they have received training and weapons from the Russian government, in fact, quite sophisticated weapons and training. CNN has broadcast a video which they report is the actual weapon used, the rocket launchers used to down the Malaysian Air Force plane by the Russian rebels being taken across the border back into Russia. We also, of course, have reports of looting at the crash site, looting the luggage of the passengers who have perished, including one American with reported dual citizenship aboard that plane. At least one American is how they're phrasing it. We have no word of any others involved. So that's where we are right now. The president also calling for a ceasefire, a return to the 2012 ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And we will address all of this, both of these issues, with our first guest, who is Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from the great state of Wisconsin, and member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and also the Homeland Security Committee. But first, one further video bite from President Obama earlier today.
Russia has refused to take the concrete steps necessary to de-escalate the situation. I spoke to President Putin yesterday in the wake of additional sanctions that we had imposed. He said he wasn't happy with them, and I told him that we have been very clear from the outset that we want Russia to take the path that would result in peace in Ukraine, but so far at least Russia has failed to take that path. Instead, it has continued to violate Ukrainian sovereignty and to support violent separatists.
All right, that was the president earlier today. Joining us now is Senator Ron Johnson, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and Homeland Security Committee, Republican from the great state of Wisconsin. Hello, Senator.
Well, Steve, how you doing?
Good. Great to talk to you again. Okay, let's start with the what the president said and the plane situation here. We are now saying openly that we believe it was pro-Russian separatists and that they had to have training and equipment and sophisticated training and equipment from Russia in order to be able to operate this kind of sophisticated weaponry. What should happen if, in fact, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's basically saying that Putin had his hands on it. They're going to investigate. The president wants a full investigation. But when it comes back that, yeah, this is how it went down, what do we do? More sanctions on Putin, or is he going to get away with this smiling again?
I think the person that we should be blaming is pretty obvious, and it is Putin. You know, I was with the bipartisan group of senators in Ukraine the day before they held the vote in Crimea. And in a press conference at the tail end of that visit, you know, that's exactly what I said about Crimea. This is when you still had Ukrainian troops stationed some of those outposts in Crimea. I said, if there's any bloodshed spilled in Crimea, there's one person to blame. It's Vladimir Putin. I haven't changed my opinion on that. There's one person that could bring an end to this conflict, and that's Vladimir Putin. So, you know, we have, you know, we still have things to learn about this. I think it's pretty obvious what happened, and it's also pretty obvious that it's been Vladimir Putin that has been destabilizing eastern Ukraine and been providing weaponry and advisors and enabling this incident to actually happen. So it's kind of like, you know, if you give a hand grenade to a bunch of monkeys, that hand grenade goes off, I mean, who's responsible for the damage that hand grenade inflicts? It really is. It is the person that hands the people the weapons, and that's Vladimir Putin.
I mean, there are details to be found in an investigation, as was called for by the president, I'm sure. But what do you expect we might learn? That we don't know. We kind of know the storyline as you've just spelled it out, right?
Well, I do believe we should bring the individuals that actually perpetrated the tragedy. I mean, the act of war. We should bring those folks to justice, and I think we may be able to find that pretty easily if you actually had some kind of independent investigation with Russia helping. But I don't think Russia obviously is going to help, because I think it'll implicate people up and down their chain of command. So, I think the investigation is worth engaging in to eventually bring the individuals to justice. But, what we need to be doing is what we should have been doing for months, and that is actually helping Ukraine rebuild its military, giving them the lethal weaponry to actually defend their borders, to stop the flow of these weapon systems into Ukraine from Russia. I think that's all been pretty well documented. Allow President Poroshenko to actually gain control over his borders and over eastern Ukraine, and he's not going to be able to do that if we sit pretty quietly on the sidelines and just provide things like MREs and radios and first aid kits and sleeping mats and uniform items. I was just listening to a briefing from the Pentagon, and that's basically what we've delivered so far. It's got to have Vladimir Putin shaking his boots.
Yeah, and they refused from that same briefing. I believe they refused to implicate Putin by name at this point. Do you believe that there should be restitution to the families of the victims, and who should be responsible for that?
There should be restitution, and from my standpoint, I continue to blame Vladimir Putin for destabilizing the area, the region. So I would think that should be Russia.
Yeah, and when the president calls this basically a European, mainly a European concern, based on the flight pattern, based on the number of passengers on board, what countries they're from, is that kind of, when he announces that, is that kind of a signal that, we're going to lead from behind on this?
It concerns me that that's exactly the signal now. I listened to Samantha Powers in the UN. I think she had a strong statement. But again, it's words. I mean, we actually have to back up the words with real action, and that's something this president has utterly refused to do, which is, again, the person to blame here is Vladimir Putin. But it's our lack of resolve. It's our lack of a strong response that continues to give him the signal that he can continue to act in this barbaric way with impunity. We've got to extract a pretty high price on Vladimir Putin and Russia if they're going to continue to conduct themselves this way. And again, the first thing we have to do is we got to fully support, resupply, and re-strengthen Ukraine's military, because these are brave individuals. They will defend their country if they are given the help and the means to do so.
And the help and the means that not only do they need, but they have asked for and have not received from this government. Let's move on to the incursion into Gaza again. The president said he brought this up at the press conference. He said, I spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu today, and while I defend his right to defend his country, blah, 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 the tunnels, the missiles, etc., there's always a but coming. There was a but yesterday. There was a but from the State Department, a big one yesterday, and today a but. We're concerned about the death and the injuring of civilians, etc., etc. Doesn't that just give cover to Hamas? Doesn't it just encourage Hamas? Your colleague Marco Rubio yesterday on the floor of the Senate for 19 minutes spelled it out in detail and said unequivocally, as others have said on the Republican side, that those responsible for the civilian casualties and deaths are Hamas and Hamas alone. Wouldn't it behoove our president to say that? Yeah,
I hate to hear the moral equivalency. There is no moral equivalency between Hamas and Israel. I think it's the ambassador has been stated that Israel has missiles to protect its people. Hamas uses its people to protect its missiles. I mean, I think that's probably the most stark statement you can say about this. And I wish American administrations, this has been on a bipartisan basis, would quit pressuring Israel to engage in peace negotiations with a supposed partner that refuses to acknowledge their right to exist. I don't know how you even start down that path. We need to fully support Israel. They have every right to defend themselves. And again, this is that moral equivalency, just from my standpoint, continues to drag this process out.
Well, and what really amazes me as a so to speak, a layman in all this, Senator, you know, you guys are the ones involved. I just don't understand how an administration, probably I've heard against the law, but I guess that's up for debate, continues to financially and otherwise support a unity government, quote unquote, that involves the very terror group that is at war with Israel and saying no to ceasefires and you know, and coming across the border through tunnels and firing rockets, and we still support them with money. How is that possible?
Money is fungible, so you may give it to this group, and then they'll say, "Oh, we're not going to use it for that." But the fact matters when they merge with Hamas, and Hamas continues to lob thousands of rockets into Israel. You got to realize, gee, maybe American money is being spent or misspent in areas where it was never meant to. So no, I agree with you. We should have the minute that Abbas did a deal with Hamas, we should have stopped their funding.
Well, is that in the cards? I mean,
well,
could it be?
Apparently not with this administration.
Yeah.
I mean, elections have consequences. I'm hoping Americans are watching as President Nero fiddles while the world burns. You know, it is outrageous that we have the ground operation conducted in Gaza. We have an airliner knocked out of the skies, blown out of the skies over Ukraine, and President Obama takes off for fundraisers in New York.
That was going to be my final question.
This isn't just a one-off. This is a pattern of activity, like his Las Vegas fundraiser after 4 Americans were killed in Benghazi. Now, you know, elections have consequences, and right now, unfortunately, America is bearing the burden of a very bad, a very unwise decision in November 2012.
Okay, Senator, great to hear from you, sir. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Good weekend. All right, folks. President Nero fiddles while the world burns. Very, very well said indeed. All right, we're going to come back and we're going to address the Israeli situation further with the Consul General from Israel here in New York, Ambassador Ido Aharoni. So don't go anywhere. It's coming up next. Full coverage of both Gaza and the plane downing on the Steve Malzberg Show.